a leader, and this is what people want in politics, right? Politics is about people, and we want a human being that cares about us and is going to represent us. And I can't think of a better person in the 27th. You know, you have a business background, but you're a man of the people, and I it's just hitting out. Yeah. So
what parade was it? Go ahead.
It was. So we had talked, I think, but it was the first time we met in person was the pumpkin hook parade out there.
Right.
I ran after you and was like, Nate, we gotta actually meet. Took a quick let you on your way.
What the pumpkin hook parade is.
Oh man, the Pumpkin Hook Parade is a local firemen's parade that is, I don't know how many years. Someone's going to get mad at me that I don't know, but
it's a long-standing parade, decades.
It is a long-standing parade. Yep, my children have gone every single year.
You're literally going through a cornfield, like literally.
Yeah, and it ends in a carnival.
It ends in a carnival. It is as American as it gets. It's a blast. It's so fun.
It's something.
This summer, right?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
We got to put together some type of parade program so we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time we do a parade.
Yeah. I'll tell you, that sounds great right now. Any sort of public act.
I know.
I'd sign up for anything right now.
I really miss the engagement. Like, I'm sitting here in my tiny little home office. I'm used to being in gymnasiums and parades, and it really has been tough, but talking about adapting, we've been adapting pretty good as a team, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, you've got a great team, and Torin, who's behind the camera there, and making it work.
He's behind the camera in another place. He's not even.
Yeah, he's somewhere over there, right?
Miles away.
Way over there. I don't even know where you are, Torin. But yeah, you got to make it work and bring, I think being able to talk to people as often as you have, Nate, in this new couple of, hopefully not too many more weeks or months, but you've been getting out to people, and they're looking for leadership right now. So thank you.
And I'm proud that our team is all now doing community outreach. We really, guys, if you're all watching, Mary, Hunter, Austin, you guys are great. And I thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
Thank you for reaching out to the community to see what they need. Our resources are limited. You guys are already sacrificing a lot to stay on the team in this hard time. But I'm grateful to you guys. And I know you're probably watching, so I want to say thanks. So can we take some questions together real quick?
Oh, sure.
Torin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, can the crowd hear us? If it's okay if they can't.
Well, let me say that I'm incredibly grateful, both for you, Nate, and for Kate, and for all of our team. I mean, we've been through some tough times together. This is perhaps the toughest time that any of us in our society may go through, and hopefully it is. Hopefully this is the tough time for our generation. I'm incredibly grateful for your leadership, for Nicole's leadership, and for the companionship that I have gotten from the colleagueship that I've gotten from our team, which is just incredible.
I gotta be honest.
I could not be happier to be working with the team that I'm working with.
Morning calls.
Oh my gosh!
Just we're all together.
Yeah.
I'm looking through the comments. I don't have a whole lot of questions right now, but if there's anybody listening, and we have 45 people listening, if anybody has
questions yesterday, Torin. I mean, I know Jane. I looked on the link. She asked some questions. Can we get to her questions from yesterday? I want to answer those.
And then, if not, then I'm going to ask you questions, Nate.
You can ask me questions.
And I want to be the interviewer.
Kate, you interview, and I'll find those questions.
Sure, Kate.
Okay. So, Nate, you're elected. What is the first thing that you want to work on when you are elected?
Well, I mean, healthcare is always going to be a priority for me.
Yeah.
But I think a low-hanging fruit, something I've already talked to Congressman Higgins' team about, and I hope to talk to Congressman Morelli's team about. Wait, can you imagine that if we had Higgins, McMurray, Morelli?
It's great.
It would be great. We could all work together.
Yeah.
And we'd have a Democratic majority no matter what going to D.C. But the first thing I would do is say, let's get an infrastructure bill done. And people would say, we don't have any money. We just got through Corona. Do you want to rebuild our country? Let's look from our history. The last time we had an economic crisis, we invested in our people and in our country, and the economic crisis ended. With FDR, he invested in highways and bridges and buildings. We have to rebuild America. And we were talking earlier today about your time overseas. I think where were you again?
I studied abroad in Kenya.
So, and like anyone who's been overseas, you can see there's this image that we have about we're number one in everything. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, we're not. And I wish we were. Mm-hmm. But from telecommunications to transportation, we have a long way to go at this point. Yeah. And it's like a house. You could have the greatest house in your block, but if you're not putting money into your house every single year, that house is going to look like junk in a year or 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. We've neglected America for 70 years. Yeah. And it's time. I'm proud of some of the things we're doing in New York State. We've invested in our airports, they're upgrading JFK, they're upgrading LaGuardia, a long way to go. They built the new bridge, the Tappan Zee or the Mario Cuomo Bridge, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. We're doing some of that stuff. We need to do more of it in upstate, and that starts with broadband. So the first thing I'd want to work on is a project to get broadband built across NY27.
Oh, that's good. All right. I like that answer.
What else?
Any other questions?
I've got a question from Karen Snodecki, one of our long-term friends.
Hi, Karen.
Student debt crisis exacerbated by our current battle with COVID-19. Please tell us your thoughts. Total relief seems quote-unquote short-sighted and especially unfair for those of us with kids. And trust me, I'm someone with a student loan debt. With those kids who are in middle and high school and looking at college, what's the answer?
I think we have to work towards debt-free education in America. And for those who think, how can we ever do that? Well, first of all, you do have to have forgiveness for people that have these unreasonable students. It was a type of debt that could be discharged for years, for decades. They changed the bankruptcy laws to make it almost impossible to discharge that debt. So people have that debt with them forever, and they can't buy a house, they can't start a family. President Obama still had student loans when he was running for president. Pete Buttigieg is the same thing. Until President Obama released his second book, he was still paying off his student loans.
P.S. My mother still has student loans.
Most of the people I know still have student loans, including myself. And I've had a pretty successful career where I've made decent money, and I paid those loans. But the amount that I started with compared to what I have now, it felt like when I remember when I got out of law school, it felt like I had a backpack on full of steel, not gold bars, of steel bars that I had to carry around. So I don't think the system makes any sense. I think if you look, and people may say, well, there's accountability. They'll say, should have taken those loans. I didn't take any loans. Mm-hmm. Let's look at this as a team. America, too often we look at each other as a bunch of competitors. We have to look at this country as a team. Our real competitors are overseas. And our competitors in Germany, in China, and countries across the world are investing in their students rather than the other way around. Because they know when these students have skills in science, in engineering, and also in the humanities, in any type of academic pursuit, it'll benefit the community as a whole. So, Karen, your question is, I think debt-free or a debt-free higher education, just like we have a debt-free high school. Can you imagine if you had to pay for high school? You say, well, I pay taxes for high school. You do. But kids don't have to take out loans to go to high school.
Yeah. Well,
let's school. Go ahead.
I'm adding my childcare piece too. Think about how much childcare, Nate.
When we give out billions of dollars in tax cuts like we did in 2018, trillions of dollars in tax cuts, no one says a word.
Yeah.
We just passed this huge stimulus plan. There's going to be several more to come probably. This stimulus plan, almost all of it goes to huge corporations. Boeing by itself almost gets as much as the American people. That's a little bit of an exaggeration, but just a little bit. Boeing gets billions and billions of dollars. most of the money goes to corporations because the theory is if we fund our corporations, it'll fund the people. I think it's the wrong way. And if we fund the people, they'll fund the corporations. Yeah. So I think we have it backwards. So I will work to try to fix that and go to a place where we can have our people, invest in our people, healthcare, education. We have to change the paradigm, change the mindset. And I think when we look at the successes of our competitors, what are they doing well? How can we learn from them? Any company, any business in the private sector, I used to do it all the time. We call it benchmarking. Well, what do our competitors do well? How can we learn from their achievements and build upon them? I think America, for 70 years, back to my 70 years example, for 70 years, the entire world was benchmarking America. Mm-hmm. And I'm afraid some of them might start to leapfrog us in different categories. And before that happens, we need to learn, wake up, and start investing in our people. Mm-hmm. A long-winded answer, but you get where I'm coming from. Kate, no?
Yeah, no, I agree. I get it.
Any other questions? We're good, Torrin, we're good. I just want to make sure people had a chance.
Well, I just wanted to chime in. I mean, I grew up, I was 16, 17. My mother was going back to get her bachelor's in college. She went through community college. She went to Florida Atlantic University, and I remember what it was like for her to have to navigate going to school, going to class, and also taking care of me. And one of my best friends has 3 kids, wants to be a part of the workforce, wants to go back to work, and has to, as a mother, as she wants to do, take care of 3 kids. But I think that childcare is such an important component of the world that we're building, because otherwise one is, I don't want to say burdened, but not able to reach one's full potential. And
that's right.
It really strikes a chord with me.
I'm not smiling at you, by the way. I see on the monitor here that Kate is texting somebody.
Sorry. I'm multitasking. I'm constantly multitasking. How did you see that?
Pretty good. That's it. Torrin, you're right. If we don't invest in the potential of our people, they'll never reach the potential, and our country won't reach its potential. And I believe in the American people. Go ahead, Kate.
No, I was just going to say, and that you kind of got to this, but, I remember that decision having it, and what Torrin was talking about, like having to decide whether I was going to have another child if I was to have another child, did I stay home? Because the money that I was bringing in was pretty much the same as 2 children in childcare. And I was lucky. Like, I was lucky to have a great paying job, but still the burden of expensive quality, childcare is hitting so many families. And having to choose between quality childcare and going to work. We shouldn't have to do that. We can.
You consistently bring this question up to me, and I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's something I need to think about more, and it's something I obviously care about, but I need to make it more of a priority because so many young families talk about childcare.
Yeah. Yeah, and the great news is that your team is very well connected to a network called the Child Care Resource and Referral Agencies in New York State, and they're the experts. And actually, you're interviewing someone on Saturday, I can plug, that is there you go, you like that, Torrin? Is an employee of one of those child care councils.
Listen, I want to tell people, when we're making phone calls, we're telling people, what do you need? And if someone says we need child care, we're referring them to the appropriate agency. If someone says they're having a mental health crisis in the home, we're referring them to the appropriate agency. This is not a traditional time for campaigning. No. And we're doing everything we can to do our part. At the same time, we want to beat the guy we're running against. Can I just talk about this before we hang this thing up?
Yeah, definitely.
Look at, guys, if you haven't been paying attention to the news the last couple of days, his votes against COVID relief, the actions of people that are close to him, his family. I'm not going to pull punches. I came into politics to speak my mind. It's despicable. And if you're watching, it's despicable. It's unacceptable. And if you think you can just get away with it, we're not going to let you. And I think if you think you're going to just defend President Trump with what's happening in our own state and all these people dying, we're not going to let you. To those who are listening, it's not, we have to win. It's a matter of life and death, literally at this point. There, people we're choosing to represent us are not doing it. And I, more than ever, want to win this race because I will fight for the people of Western New York. And anyone else want to add to that? I mean, there's a lot of times where I get up in the morning. If this was something you could do physically, like if I could just chop enough wood to win, or you know what I mean, or wrestle a bear, it's not something I can just put all my energy into. It's something I have to persuade people to follow us and follow our ideas. But dear Lord, I want to help the people of NY27. I don't want to help my family's business or some corporation. Right. I want to help the people here.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that, if any? No, Kate, you're good?
Torin, I can't hear you now all of a sudden.
Oh, I think Torin fell asleep.
Oh, okay.
Torin, can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah. You cut out for a second.
I don't think we have the time to get into it during this evening, but I do want to sort of frame it moving forward. Melissa Moore on Twitch has given us a number of good questions about what do we do about student debt? What do we do about workforce development? And what do we do about how we can improve at the city level, the county level, mental health and addiction care in our area? And I just want to let that be sort of a frame moving forward, maybe into tomorrow as we think about what we want to talk about, because these are serious issues that face us and our society and our culture and our community. And they will come to the forefront in the next few weeks as we struggle with this great sort of existential issue that we're sharing as a community.
Well, a couple of things just before we do move on. I want, if you could, Miss Moore is her name?
Melissa Moore.
Melissa, go back to listen to the podcast or the video cast or the town hall we did a few days ago with Celia Spicone, the mental health expert. It has some really valuable, pertinent advice for this moment. And I really got a lot out of it myself. Beyond that, we'll talk more about your questions in the future. But you're right. Those are all things we need to care about. And I think you have more power than you think you do. Getting involved in politics, like the people on my team, none of them were involved in politics just a few years ago, including myself. You can make an impact, but democracy requires participation. None of us, anyone who's watching this, you cannot be a sideline spectator. Don't just talk about it online. Get involved. You can make physical, real, lasting changes to your community if you get off the sidelines. And we'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. In the meantime, thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right.
Thank you, Kate.
Yep. Thanks.
Have a good night.
Thank you.